What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the CrabNet Show. This is our fantasy football segment, an exciting new show that we're bringing to the CrabNet. And today we're counting down to Gameweek 3. We're looking at the standout fixtures and players going into the game week, giving you some advice around your captain's choice, what to look at from a differential perspective, and overall strategy going into this game week. Thanks again for joining us on the CrabNet. We're bringing you fresh opinions from the streets of South Africa, as we always do. We've got a panel today that's going to give you insight going into your fantasy game week. Some of our regular resident analysts on the show and some excited guests to join us for the first time. Introducing our boys, homeboy Shay is with us again. What's happening, Shay? Welcome back.
What's up, guys? Yeah, short for having me.
Short, Shay. Always love having you. Homie Good is with us again. Fuggy, fantasy talk today. What's happening?
Yeah, how's it, gents? Good to be back. Excited.
Cool. And as I said, listeners, we've got two new guests on the CrabNet today. Introducing our homeboy Jared first up. What's up, Jared? Welcome to the net.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Cool, man. Can't wait to hear your opinions on the fantasy segment. Our homie Aru is also on the call. What's happening, Aru? Welcome for the first time to the net.
How's it, guys? Thanks to be a part of this.
Short, man. We value your boys' opinions. And as we always say, if you love having these conversations, we love hearing your opinions. And that's where Jared and Aru comes in. Definitely knowledgeable about their football. Love the beautiful game, as all of us do. But boys, getting straight into it, it's been an exciting first two game weeks. We saw some big movements, lots of goals in the first two game weeks. So lots of challenges going into the new game week 3. And off the top, I know Omishe, you looked at this game week as a big one, seeing that you decided to play a wild card. What was your thinking going into this game week 3, and why did you decide to play your wild card first up?
Yeah, initially the thought wasn't to play the wild card that early. Initially, I thought I'd hang on till about December or so and wait for the next wild card to also be available to see how things settle down after the transfer window closes. But now that we've seen some of the big names coming through, some of the clubs settling down, making their signings, we've seen who's starting, who's in favor, what the manager's thinking is like with these opening fixtures, and who's off to a flying start as well. After analyzing the first few games, it's good to see which teams you think are actually going to be in contention this season. So yeah, that was the thinking behind it. So obviously I also had a bad start, so it was a bit of a mix up to decide.
I think you're talking it down, but you actually had a good game week, 74 points in the last game week, even though you had a few non-starters. So playing your big
but
card
the first game week wasn't too good. So I needed the wild card to keep the consistency, just to play catch up early on.
Cool. So you not really specific fixtures that you looked at, but Gur, maybe on your side, looking at game week 3, any standout fixtures to you where you thought about making a few changes to your team? I know you played your wildcard in the first game week, after the first game week, but any standout fixtures that you looked at and said, I need to start looking at tactical decisions about bringing certain players in?
Fixtures, yeah, I guess so. I see Will's got a good next few game weeks coming up. Everton as well. So looking at focusing on those teams and bringing them in slowly. But going back to the wild card, I must apologize to the listeners from last week where I said don't play the wild card. So I ended up playing the wild card.
You doubled up on them.
So what can I say that I panic bought Lampard, I think he's going to be Pep this season, and he pepped me pretty good.
Yeah.
So that just, my Pulisic, I had him getting me no points, and I couldn't do it for another week. And then at the bottom line is I wanted to bring Sterling in.
Yeah.
Actually, the show made me change my decision last week when you asked me.
I think it was Ganakai. Ganakai put you off there.
No. So you asked me if I'm not going to have any United and City players in my team.
Yes.
Jeez, man.
So you got to
Actually,
thank
I
me
do
for
want.
you getting KDB into your team. He had a 13-point haul there.
For sure. I was happy with that, and I'm happy with the players that I brought in. See, what I like about playing fantasy is these are the teams that I enjoy watching play.
Mm.
And while I'm enjoying watching play, I like to have players in my fantasy team playing. Makes it even more exciting. So yeah, I'm happy. But it was a last-minute decision. I did it on Friday. Friday evening, going into the game.
Yeah, so I guess you got to look at the fixtures and make those decisions. And Aro, to get your thoughts on it. I mean, this week probably the standout fixture is the LFC Arsenal game on Monday. Did that change your thoughts going into the game week? Lots of talk about maybe popular decision for people to pull Oba out of their teams. What's your thoughts going into this game week 3 fixtures?
Yeah, I know. I think when it comes to fantasy, the biggest challenge is trying to not play with your heart and rather play with your head.
Yeah. I know you're a Gunner as well.
Man. I'm a big Arsenal man, and if you're an Arsenal man, you're an Oba man as well. So the plan also from my side was to get rid of him. In fact, I was also trying to, the fact that United and City didn't play in that first week, threw a bit of a spanner in the works for everyone, because a lot of people had Fernandes in and KDB as well. So the plan for me is to take out Oba and bring KDB in. So I decided not to make any changes last week after speaking to Jared, actually, because Bruno Fernandes was coming in despite my dislike for United as an Arsenal fan. And he convinced me, it's better just take a chill pill for now. So I think for now I'm definitely leaning towards bringing KDB in for Oba. Because this Arsenal side, the way they're playing at the moment, they're very solid defensively, and they're very solid defensively against the big teams. But what that means is that transition play between that defense and attack is lacking at times. And with the way the Liverpool team are set up and that high energy, it's not going to be one of those free-flowing games in terms of goal scoring for the Arsenal side. You might get some goals from Salah and Mane, but I'm not so confident that it's going to be high flowing from the Arsenal side. So me, KDB is a must.
Yeah, I think Jared gave you some good advice there. Keeping your team, not bringing Bruno in, he didn't really shine. But I guess you made a good decision, because now you've got the two subs, and Kieran Gibbs gave you a shortfall last week on the -4, so you got to get him out as well.
Yeah, that was a big hit. But I think also, the good part about these first 2 game weeks is you get to see a lot about the newly promoted teams there as well.
That's true.
And there's some hidden gems in that lead side, I must say. Harrison's is a good pick. Patrick Bamford's a good pick. I was expecting Rodrigo to play most of the games, but Patrick Bamford's playing up front and he's doing quite well as well. So they're a good pick, and they're up against West Brom this week, I think. So it should be good to get some lead players in as well.
So listeners, you heard already, before Jared gives us his opinion on the standout fixtures, he's already giving good advice. Hey Jared, what's your thoughts going into the game week 3? And when you looked at the fixture list, we spoke a bit about the Arsenal Liverpool game, but a few other big hitting sides taking place this weekend. City Leicester, another one big one. What were your thoughts overall on the fixtures?
Okay, first thing I want to say is Aru is very brave to take my advice.
It worked out, buddy.
Yeah, look, it worked out. Sometimes you got to be brave. Okay, I'm not as brave as Shay and Girl to use the wildcard yet. I'm holding off on that. Game week 1 and game week 2 are certainly like a lesson. The lesson I took from the first 2 game weeks was avoid panicking, because a few guys took out Mane and Son after game week 1 and jumped on the bag, and then they regretted it in game week 2. And that's what happens in fantasy football. You try and avoid your knee-jerk reactions, because obviously you put time and effort to think about what players you want to draft in. So trust your gut. If they didn't perform in the game week, it doesn't mean they're not going to perform the following game week. So trust your instincts. There's a reason you brought certain players into your team. And yes, there's a chance that this very next game week they might not perform, but almost guaranteed they're going to come back strong. So
you mentioned Mane and who was it? Kane.
Son.
Oh, Mane and Son.
Mane and Son.
Salah transferred Son out game week 1. I transferred Mane out game week 1.
Yeah, and I did the same thing as well. I transferred Son out and brought in KDB. Son obviously performed very well for you there, Jared, and many of your listeners probably kept Son in your team. He got you a massive points haul in 24 points. Spurs going into this game week don't have the most toughest fixture amongst the rest of the teams. But overall, I think Spurs Newcastle is going to be a good fixture. Generally, Spurs are good at home without the crowd putting them down with the Jose style. So a few Spurs players to be thinking about there. And Shay, I want to get your thoughts on this one. We saw Spurs make a few signings this week, the likes of Gareth Bale and Reguilon at left back. Are those ones to watch going forward? I know Bale is obviously injured, but Reguilon maybe?
I was actually holding on my wild card for Gareth Bale news, hoping that he comes to United.
Priced somehow. At 9.5, but
priced at 9.5. So I was just hoping it was under 10. I was really hoping it was under 10. I've noticed over the years, and this won't apply for every single player, obviously, but there's a ton of players who have come across from Spain, from Madrid, and from Barca. And when they do come to the Premier League, they feel like they have something to prove. Now, Bale's already been here, but Bale really has something to prove. He may have won his Champions Leagues and stuff, but with all the negative media is getting about the nature around his departure, he'll really want to get into the goals at Madrid. And Jose is going to favor him, obviously, in that Spurs team, having coached him in Madrid in the past. I really think he's going to fire. As soon as he's available, I'm going to draft him into my team. I was going to try and hold off until that wild card, but when I heard the Bale transfer went through, I was like, okay, it's time to play the wild card, and I'll have to make a sacrifice later on for one of the big names to bring Bale in, and then I can transfer those extra funds around the rest of the squad somewhere. So I think he's going to be quality. And the right back, Reguilon, I don't know much about him, to be honest.
Left back.
Left back. I know that he was also a potential for United to sign, but to be honest, we need centre backs right now more than anything. But let's see if United do make a signing there. I can't give you too much of my opinion on him because I haven't really seen him play yet.
Reguilon, listeners, he's a very attacking left back. Definitely one to watch going forward. But as with any new signing coming into the Premier League, they take some time to settle. So I think our advice from the net, hold on drafting a Reguilon into your team. There's definitely a lot more talent out there, priced at 5.5. The likes of Castagna is one to watch. But good. I know you call Castagna early, but many of the listeners are probably thinking United didn't fire in the first game week. But is the United boys maybe wants to watch going into game week 3, Brighton away? Any ones to watch in the United team from your side?
Yeah, definitely, man. And I'll still go for the same names: the Brunos, Martial, Rashford, Greenwood. They just needed time to get form. They need time to get form. So it can happen any day now. It can happen this weekend or it can happen the next. For me, I've got Martial and Bruno in my team. I won't let go of them because when they click, we get good goals. And I mean, between the two, there's at least a 20-point haul from them, and looking forward to it. So yeah, man, the first few weeks, especially coming from last season or hot season with a lot of games where they had to take drinks break. And I mean, it takes wear and tear on the body, and they needed time to recuperate. So these first few weeks, don't set any name in stone. You, especially for the ones that are not performing, go with your gut, as Jared said. You know what their quality is like over seasons past. You know what the talent looks like. You've seen the points and the statistics on your fantasy game. So stick with it. And I mean, every player has a rough patch and every team has a rough patch. It was only the first week for United. they're going to do well this season.
Two teams that have really performed well over the first 2 game weeks, and I want to get your thoughts on this one, is Everton and Crystal Palace. Both of them got 2 victories, but they're playing each other this weekend. Any thoughts on ones to watch on that fixture? Everton, Crystal Palace. Many people looked at Calvin Lewin, and they were rewarded heavily for bringing him in after game week 1. Anyone else that you got your eye on in those 2 teams?
Yeah, I think Crystal Palace is a very interesting one. It's like we're almost just waiting for them to stop performing, and they keep doing it. I think as long as they've got Wolf Zaha in that team, he makes them tick, and he tore United to shreds. To be honest, as much as United had chances in that game, when Zaha got on the ball, you just felt this guy can do something. And Everton, I mean, the thing about Everton as well, as much as they've made these good signings, we almost weren't expecting them to click so well. I mean, they've got a fantastic manager, Champions League winning manager. They've got top signings. James Rodriguez has come in as well. Richarlison's always been a good pick from a fantasy Premier League point of view.
Priced well at
Calvert-Lewin at 7.5 for me is almost becoming a no-brainer.
Especially
for me, it's between him and Bamford at the moment. Yeah.
Especially in the forward line, there's not many standout budget price forwards out there. But Calvert-Lewin has put his hand up.
Yeah, and when Everton sold Lukaku, they never really replaced him, and that is probably why they didn't do as well as they had done. And I mean, for Everton doing well is top table or starting to challenge for Europa League positions. But Calvert-Lewin, he's got a bit of he sort of developed this goal scoring instinct. That first goal he scored on the weekend, that back heel, that's goal scoring instinct that maybe he didn't have previously. So I think at 7.5, he's a steal. Luka Dean's always a good bet as well because he's on set pieces as well, and he's got a fantastic delivery. And the way Carlo's got the team playing as well, they play with a lot of width, and they get that in. And Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are definitely going to profit from that. So if we're looking at players to pick from those 2 sides, I think Zaha is definitely one to look for. And remember, Crystal Palace also, I mean, under Roy, they've got that knack of being quite solid at the back as well. So you're not going to go wrong picking any of their defenders as well. Those are the 3 players I'd name.
If you don't have the young man Tariq Mitchell in your team yet, and you're playing wildcard, definitely draft him in at 4.1 now after a price rise. Definitely a budget defender that's guaranteed to start over the next few game weeks with Patrick Van Aanholt injured. Jared, on your side, ones to watch, some fixtures that we didn't speak about. Chelsea West Brom being one that many people have their eye on. Chelsea obviously failed against our boys, Liverpool. I know you're a big Liverpool supporter as well. But you can't write off the likes of Timo Werner and Kai Havertz going into this game week against newly promoted West Brom. Your thoughts on that fixture and the rest, and who's the ones to watch on your side?
Exactly what you're saying. Timo Werner, I think Chelsea's going to come back strong after last week, and they have something to prove. And I think Lampard will definitely have his guys ready to go. And thinking of captaincy picks, I was actually thinking Timo Werner. Obviously, I don't have him set as captain because he's not the safest in terms of. It's not my first choice. Yeah, but I'm certainly thinking about it, and there's a reason. Is Werner hasn't performed as yet, but there's a reason I'm still sticking with him because he has that goal-scoring instinct. And I think you already mentioned. Yeah, exactly. And I'm so sad the fact that he didn't come to us. It happens, and we just got to see how it plays out. But I'm a big fan of Werner. In terms of other fixtures, if you look at differentials, I was actually looking at. I actually have 2 free transfers this game week, and I obviously wanted to bring KDB in. But I haven't done it as yet. And we just spoke about Zaha, Crystal Palace. I've already brought him in, and I have one more transfer left. So I can't afford KDB at the moment. So I'm looking at Phil Foden as a potential buy to cover my City players.
The pep rotation might come to catch you.
Yeah, it's scary. But he got 2 goals in 2 games.
I'm a bit concerned because Foden started tonight from what I saw.
Yes, he did.
The other differential that I think is Rashford. Yes, he's a bit pricey, but I don't think he's in many people's teams because Marshall and Bruno is the standard options. Mm-hmm. So I think Rashford is still a differential and it's definitely someone to consider.
Yeah,
pricey.
I like that. I like what you mentioned there, Jared, about the differentials, and watching the Carabao Cup.
Carabao Cup, yeah.
However you say it.
I think everyone still remembers it as the Carling Cup. Huh?
Carling Cup, yeah. So I still search Carling Cup when I'm looking for the thing. Anyway, Kai Havertz, he's a hat-trick. And I mean, he was looking out of thing, but now he played number 10 role and put in a hat-trick for Chelsea. So those are you keep your eye on the Carabao Cup or FA Cups and because then you get to also see, now you go and see Foden, he's starting maybe he's starting too many, he might be benched.
Yeah.
Always good to get.
Yeah, it's so hard to call.
There's a few key ones to watch. I think we saw, never mind the fixture list, but we saw some great stars, as we want to call it, fantasy stars in game week 2. Someone like Gabriel Jesus. Shay, what's your thoughts on bringing Jesus in as your City differential?
Differential, yeah, I would think, because like Jared mentioned, it's good to be looking at these players that other players don't have in their team, other guys don't have in their team, so that you may just get a luck with Jesus playing up front, City banging 6, he manages to get a couple goals, couple assists. Could just be a game changer for you.
City is obviously dominant as well going forward. Leicester haven't kept any clean sheets in their first 2 games, though they've got victories.
I'm looking at the City and Liverpool midfielders as being the most decisive picks. And obviously Oba being reclassified as a midfielder, and like you said, Rashford as well.
Yeah.
And there's also, maybe I'm thinking with my heart a bit too much, but Greenwood at 4.5 last season, he managed to get over 100 points, 100 and something, but at 7.5 this season, if he does get a full season and he's not just coming off the bench as he was most of last season, I think he could really be in with the goals. I'm very impressed with him, with his footwork and his ability to get his shots away. One thing I noticed about Timo Werner against Liverpool was when he was running against Fabinho, he didn't look like he was that kind of tricky player who was going to get a step over away and somehow force a shot. So that worried me a bit. That actually made me move him out of my team. Because I want an out-and-out goal scorer. I want somebody who's going to be creating goals out of nothing. And for that reason, I'm going with lower strikers, cheaper strikers, and investing heavily in the midfield rather. So I do think there's a couple of strikers out there who, for under 7, around about 6.5, are very good buys. You'll mention some of them. You'll mention Bamford. I'll throw in Mitrovic there.
Yeah, for sure. Mitrovic started the last game for Fulham, got 2 goals, priced at 6 million. Definitely want to get your budget forward in.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few of them.
I think one that we didn't speak about, and we haven't spoken about the differential in the forward being one of Shay's favorites, and I want to get your thoughts on this one. Chris Wood is one that most fantasy managers.
Come on, it's not me.
Listeners, Shay loves.
He likes the Wood.
Are you kidding me?
He likes the Wood.
He likes the
Wood. But actually, on a serious note, Chris Wood has been consistent, and I don't want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, most times fantasy managers overlook the attacking players at Burnley. I know with the likes of Pope and Tarkowski and in the defense, we normally go to the defenders at Burnley, but any thoughts on Chris Wood and maybe even Jay Rodriguez as forwards, differential forwards?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there when it comes to Burnley. They're not the most attractive team to watch, but they do need to score goals, and he's the guy for that. Burnley are no nonsense. They know what they want to do, and they go about doing it, and they make no apologies for the way they play. Yeah. And he's a big part of that.
I think we lost
if he's not going to get a goal, he's going to get a flick on somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they tend to profit quite a bit. Wood. I've never seen Shea hit a ball as well, so I don't know why he loves Chris Wood that much. But
playing indoor.
But Burnley also, yeah. But Burnley playing Southampton this week, and Southampton haven't really impressed me much.
Yep.
I had a couple of players. I had Danny Ings in the mix there, and he's come through for me. But they did get pounded on the weekend as well. So those 2 goals that he scored were more of a bonus more than anything else. And I also had Ward-Prowse in there, I think, at one stage, and he wasn't. I mean, they just don't inspire me at the moment. You know, I think they're one of those teams that are just in limbo at the moment. So, and as Saga mentioned earlier, as well, you know, you want players in your team that you like to watch as well. For me, just to go a bit off topic from Burnley to Southampton.
Yeah.
I like Wolves fixtures, and I like some of the. So if you're looking for a differential, the guy Podence is actually a very, very, very neat player.
Top name.
Someone needs to step into the void that's been left by Diego Jota.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna lay on a lot of assists for Jimenez at the moment. And with Adama Traore being playing more as a right wing back, he's not being exposed that much up the field at the moment. So I think Podence is a good bet. And also Nelson Semedo's come in for Wolves. So there is a chance that might free up Traore at the moment. But Podence and Jimenez are definitely going to link up well this season. With the fixtures that they've got, he's a good pick.
Yeah, Podence definitely one to look out for, listeners. I mean, just the fact that he's had a price rise this week from 5.5 to 5.6 shows that there's many fantasy managers out there that's putting their faith in him. And at that price, he's already proved himself with 2 assists in the first 2 game weeks. Good. A few other intriguing fixtures, I would call it. Maybe at the bottom of the table, Aston Villa and Fulham. Not many star players there. We spoke about Mitrovic, but Villa has made some good signings over the last few weeks. Ollie Watkins leading the line for them. Any stars or fantasy picks that you've seen in that fixture, Villa versus Fulham? Other than Mitrovic? Martinez.
Yeah, it's a guy that I had anticipating this transfer, and I was happy he just well, that's a dream debut to save a penalty. It's 13 points in total with these bonuses. So I know a lot of fantasy managers are of the opinion that they need this one keeper that they keep, and then they put a 4.0 as on the bench for keeping. I'm not of that. I try and put 2 4.5s if I can, if there are 2 starters, but I always will have 2 starting keepers in my team, and I like to rotate that. So I mean, when the guys had McCarthy on this weekend, I had the opportunity to put in Martinez, and I mean that's 13 points over 0.
Yeah, and, that was a huge haul for Martinez with the penalty save as well.
Yeah, so other players that I really liked from Villa, and hopefully we get to see more, is like El Mohammadi, El Ghazi.
No one's talking about Jack Grealish anymore. He was a favorite last. Yeah. What about Jack Grealish? No one's talking about.
So I had Grealish in my team before the fixtures came out. I'm a big fan of Grealish. I think, and I mean, I don't think there was a player that had more minutes on the field than Grealish. I may be wrong, but he had a lot of minutes on the field. The only reason I dropped him was because he was a blank for Gameweek 1. But I mean, if you can, and I think he's at 7.0. If you can bring him in, do, because is he a penalty taker? I think he is a penalty taker for.
I think he's definitely a set piece taker. The penalties, he probably would be on the penalty spot as well.
I think so. So I mean, with VAR, we know we must go for penalty takers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's another, just a quiet fixture that we spoke about a little bit, Jared. Spurs Newcastle. Spurs obviously was a huge game for them last game week. We saw Kane and Son take the big points hauls, gave many managers some big hauls in game week 2. Are you seeing them dominating Newcastle? Any standouts there, differentials there that you want to pick out?
No, thanks, Raj. I was actually hoping you asked me about that fixture Because obviously, Son and Kane both scored over 20 points last game week. But I want to give a word of warning. Spurs played a Southampton team that holds a very high line.
Yep.
So they were able to run right in the second half. From what I know, Spurs in the past, they struggle against teams that sit back, that sit deep. I think in the last season's fixture against Newcastle, Spurs had about 80% possession, but they ended up losing the game. I think it was 1-0. And they only had like 2 shots on target.
When they're frustrated, it's difficult for them to break down.
So I won't lie, even though I have Son in my team, I was tempted about Kane as well. But I think I'm just going to hold on because I'm very skeptical about Spurs breaking down the Newcastle defense. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's one thing about a Jose Mourinho team over recent times. They're very unpredictable. They can perform really well one week, get the 5 goals that they got as they did against Southampton, but then next week draw a blank. So I think Jared's advice there is clear. Just be a bit tentative when you think about rushing to bring in both Kane and Son into your team after one game week of performing really well. But boys, I think one of the key decisions for any fantasy manager, especially this season, is a captain choice. And sometimes you spoke for choice in this one. You don't know where to start. And Jared, I actually want to start with you on this one. I mean, captain's decisions is probably the one that keeps you awake at night. And there's some big captain's decisions going into this game week. We spoke a bit about the Chelsea boys. You mentioned you're thinking about Werner, but you can't overlook the likes of De Bruyne and Salah. No, doesn't matter who they're playing. Those two are always on the radar. What's your thinking when it comes to captains going into game week 3?
Yeah, no, the captain choice is it's a very important choice. And if I had De Bruyne in my team, no doubt 100% he'll be my captain.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't have him at the moment. So if you don't have De Bruyne, it does become a bit tougher. At the moment, I do have Mo as my captain.
Yeah.
He's at home at Anfield. He's generally very good at home, and he generally brings in the points.
And he's been clinical as well.
Maybe Aru might disagree that Arsenal's defense has improved. That at Anfield, maybe Arsenal might be able to hold us off. So we'll see. But it is a tough one because there's a few options outside of De Bruyne. There's also Sterling. If you want to cover Man City as your captain.
Maybe a differential captain would be a Sterling.
Yeah, but it's a good one because, there's also Werner. I'm not sure in terms of fixtures, which are the guys. Yeah, I think it would be too brave to put Everton player captain. You've got to be too brave for that. They've got a much tougher fixture. Yes, they scored 5 goals last game week, but that's against West Brom with 10 men. So it does flatter to deceiver. But so it's a bit tricky if you don't have De Bruyne. It's who to put captain.
It sounds like Jared's going for Mo Salah. When in doubt, choose Salah. I think that's what we've learned over the last few seasons.
Especially at home, especially at Anfield,
For sure. Liverpool has been dominant at home, and we know when Liverpool are dominant, Salah is normally on the score sheet. But I think I know, actually, Aru is not favouring that one, especially since Arsenal might be on the receiving end of a Salah game week. Aru, what's your captain choices going into this big game week? Choosing your captain, the likes of Chelsea obviously will be on many listeners' radars. They're playing West Brom, but where's your thoughts around captaincy?
No, I think that Liverpool-Arsenal game is the big one this weekend. But if Mo Elneny is also playing, Salah might be intimidated by being the second-best Egyptian on the field, So I think that might
be the Egyptian prince.
No, jokes aside. I think there's a couple of guys who are just fixture-proof, and Salah is one of them. He scores against anyone. It doesn't matter who he's playing against, and he's one of them. Harry Kane is also one of them. He does tend to get a lot of goals. Kane scores a lot of goals when he's not even playing well. So he's also an option. But I do agree with what Jared has to say about the Newcastle Spurs game. Newcastle are one of the most unpredictable teams in the league. They've got a knack of pulling out a result when they need it. And I mean, I think Joe Linton scored his only goal against Spurs last season. So
that says a lot. That says a lot.
That's exactly. For me, I think I'm leaning towards KDB as captain. I really enjoy watching him play as well. So it's easy to get him in. I'm gonna have to let go of Aubameyang, and I'm gonna go for KDB. But I've also got the option to use Werner at the moment. I know Shay mentioned that he was a bit worried about Werner's performance. I watched quite a bit of the Bundesliga and especially in the German national team as well. Werner works his socks off, and he's got top quality finishing. He's almost like Firmino on steroids at times. So I think he's one of those guys. He's just gonna come good. He's gonna come good very soon. And Kai Havertz just needs to be played in the right position, and he'll see it, Werner. So I think when you're looking at for maybe a little bit of an out there choice, Werner is one of them. Not everyone has him. I think everyone who plays FIFA has Werner because they love him. But other than that, I think for me it's gonna be come down between KDB and Werner. And I'm slightly leaning towards KDB, especially because he's on penalties as well, and he's a midfielder.
Yeah, and I think again, Aru is making it quite clear as Jared goes. If you're a bit undecided, then KDB is maybe the one, and the fixture might be a good one for him as well. Leicester at home for Man City. So KDB a choice for many of you. If you have him in your team, definitely one to consider. Kurt, we heard a lot about the Everton boys. Is the risk of Calvert-Lewin as captain one that you're considering, or are you looking at the safe bets as well?
If I had Calvert-Lewin, I would have considered him. The thing is, if you had like Salah, and it's hard to have all of them in your team, so you may have just one. KDB definitely is the one to go for if you have him in your team. The Leicester City game is guaranteed to be a lot of goals. So even if you have Vardy in your team, you may just get a brace. Going forward, so I have a general rule when I pick captains. I don't always have one standout player in my team that I go to for captaincy. I go on fixtures. So like, for example, this weekend, if I had Salah or even Mane, I wouldn't play them as captain for this weekend because of the tough fixture that they have against Arsenal. But I use the bonus point system to view a captaincy because I like to see
a good one. Yeah,
that 3-point doubling and having a good opportunity at doubling those 3 points. So I always look at the points and not just bonus points. You must go into the details and look at the bonus point scoring and see how many points they get in total, so that you understand the type of player they are, how many passes they make, interceptions, what a threat and influence they are in the team. In Everton, if I had Calvert-Lewin only, but if I had James Rodriguez, I would definitely put him as my captain. And I do have James Rodriguez. I've made that change for this weekend. I dropped Willian out and brought in James. But I also have KDB, so I'll probably go with KDB as captain.
Sounds like KDB's got a second vote there. Shay, I know you've always been a big admirer of KDB. Are you looking anywhere else but the reigning Premier League player of the year?
To be honest, I'll probably just go with KDB as well. There ain't no arguments there. I think there's only a few players that you can really consider to be safe options, and obviously you have to watch the fixtures. I'll also work with a bit of a formula. In every team, you're going to get those plus 10 players that cost more than 10, and they're usually from the bigger teams. So if you got a big team playing against another big team, usually I wouldn't gamble on making one of those players captain. I'd go outside of that. But I think this season, it's definitely between the Liverpool midfielders, KDB, Sterling, possibly as well from City, and then the Arsenal's Aubameyang, being classified as a midfielder. He'll get you a lot of goals, and he'll probably be in the running for golden boots alongside Salah, Sterling, Vardy. There's a few strikers that would stand out. I'm not, like, I know Aru alluded to it just now about Timo Werner. I also watched a bit of him, caught up a bit of his highlights as well to see what kind of player he was. But just that performance against Liverpool is not convincing yet. So maybe he does need to build his confidence up, does need to prove himself. And then I can say, okay, he's a safe choice for captain. But right now, if you want a safe bet, then you would go with the players who you would think at the end of the season most likely would get over 200 points, maybe even hopefully 250. And those are the big names that I did mention just now. So those are the ones that could get you 500 points from one player if you strike it well. And you can't stick to the same captain every week. You have to look at the fixtures. You have to look at form. You have to look at who's on penalties. That's an easy 10 points if it's a midfielder, if he's taking penalties. And like Sagar mentioned, your bonus points. And there's a nice system on Fantasy as well called ICT. When you click on a player's profile, they give you the influence, creativity, and threats. And they actually rank the players depending on how dangerous they're looking going forward. So that's also a nice stat to keep in mind when looking at a player's form.
Yeah, top down. But it sounds like Shay agrees as well, listeners. From the CrabNet, we've got 3 KDBs, and you can make that 4 because I'm also looking at KDB as an option for my captaincy. But if you want to try and play it brave, Salah is the option that Jared is putting out there. And if you want to really take your chances, it sounds like the boys are also having thoughts around the likes of Timo Werner and Calvert-Lewin. So when you're prepping your team for game week 3, that captaincy choice is going to be critical to getting a big points for. So give it some thought. If you're looking to play it safe, KDB is your man from the net. But thanks, boys. I think it's been a great discussion on the game week 3 fixtures. Listeners, I'm pretty sure that you've taken some good insight from our panel on the fantasy picks going into this game week. Jared, Aru, thanks a lot for joining us, boys.
Always a pleasure, Raj. Thanks.
Cool, man. We're definitely hoping to have you guys back. We
appreciate the invite.
Short, yeah. We love having you guys over, so definitely we'll pull you in again in future segments. Shaker, always good having you, boys.
Yeah, short, Raj. It was a good one. Thanks, man.
Short, guys, short. Fantasy is one of the big conversations when we on the streets of South Africa. So we hope that we've shared our opinions. As you can hear, our resident analysts and our guests are always on the ball when it comes to fantasy gameplay. If we could help you out a little bit this week in making some decisions, we hope we did. Good luck going into this game week. I think there's big points up for grabs. And we can't wait to watch the big teams, the big hitters get at it again. The likes of Salah, KDB definitely wants to watch going into this game week. Thanks again for listening to our podcast, and we hope that you enjoyed it, listeners. Catch you again next week, only here on the CrabNet Show. Over and out. Don't forget what we were told.